Everyone, to a special live edition of the Washington Wrestle Talk podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and I just finished watching probably the most interesting MMA competition I've ever seen. Um, and I've seen a lot of MMA in my life, but nothing ever like this. It was the LFC, or Lingerie Fighting Championships. Um, they gave each of their fighters different names than what I know them by. And I'm acquainted with several of them uh, via various social media outlets such as Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. But let's get right into my recap here. It was streamed on YouTube. Um, the camera angle, excuse me, um, the camera angle had, it was an okay angle, but at one point it said memory card not found, which was kind of amusing for me and a lot of the people in YouTube chat. But other than that, it was it was an okay camera angle. There were times when the referee walked in front of the camera and you couldn't see what was going on. But, for their first foray into YouTube, it wasn't too bad of a show. They did have a presentation where they got an award from YouTube for having 100,000 subscribers, which is pretty impressive. If only some of them 100,000 subscribers would listen to my show or or even watch my YouTube channel that I have. But anyways, let's just go ahead and get into the fight card here. The first match was Jessica Vatira taking on Jen Valentine. Valentine won her first match in LFC via tap out. And, I've known Jen Valentine for probably about a year or so now. And she's a really super, super nice person, but I knew she was a tough customer. And, Jessica was making her debut, a lot of debuts tonight in the LFC. And so it was a second round tap out win for Jen. Our next fight was supposed to be Jen, the Real Deal Rep, versus Terry Feisty Fist London. However, London had a injury on her right knee, so the referee canceled the fight. They announced it as a disqualification. In reality, it should have been a forfeit, but it's neither here nor there. But Jen, the Real Deal Rep, gets her first victory in the LFC after going, she made her debut tonight. And then in our next match that we had Shelly Da Silva versus Tomiko Tajima, who was making her debut. It ended up being a decision win for Da Silva. A lot of great action. Tomiko showed that she can handle herself pretty well in MMA settings. And I was really impressed by how well she, was handling herself against the more experienced Da Silva. But in the end, judge's decision said that Da Silva won the fight. And then after that, we had the presentation. And then we had our next fight, which was Jolene Hex versus Bella Inc. Bella Inc. is a boxer, is what, what's listed on her profile here. And she came out fists blazing and just going balls to the wall against, the reigning LFC European champion. And, this was the first I heard of them having European championships, let alone I knew about their their overall championship, but we'll get back into that a little later. Um, the announcers were saying, the finish came when Bella tapped out to Jolene, who basically had her in a reverse figure four head scissors, and they tried saying it was a leg triangle. Come on, guys, you can't really. If you're going to call the move, call it right. I mean, that's not a knock on you guys, though, but Jolene gets the win against the debuting Bella Inc. And then in our main event, we had Allie Babydoll Parks taking on Monica Flowerbomb Garcia. Now, I'm friends with Monica on Facebook. We're friends on Facebook, and she posted about the event tonight. It was held at the Nerd in Las Vegas. Now, Monica is the former LFC champion, and Allie is, pretty much a veteran of the LFC. It came down to a split decision after a lot of great action, and, it was the Booty Camp chain title is what they gave the winner, and Allie won via a split decision. Now, interestingly enough, one of the judges tonight was none other than former TNA or Impact champion Austin Aries. So that's where he ended up, was being a judge for LFC. For those of you who don't know, at the last show for Impact that he was at, he, for lack of better terms, it was his last show under contract. So overall, I would say that this has potential. The LFC has a lot of potential. They host a fantasy draft in one of their forums. And interestingly enough, another one of my friends was actually drafted. So I'm just waiting for her to make her debut in the LFC. And if she does, I might actually go down to Las Vegas to watch it. There was a interesting scene is after the Da Silva Tomiko fight, where Tomiko offered her hand, as a sign of respect, and Da Silva spat on her hand, and the two ladies went after it. Then one of the coaches physically and violently threw Tomiko to the cage floor. Now, I don't know if that was part of the plan. I don't know if this was legit or scripted, but that looked pretty rough, and you just don't do that, man. I mean, I don't care if you're a coach or not. You just don't do that. I mean, that's just disrespectful. But my overall opinion, like I said, these guys have potential. They need to invest in a better quality camera, one that doesn't say memory card unavailable. I'm just joking, LFC. No real takeaways from this event. I was pleasantly surprised by it, and I hope that they do more of these. But, this is like baby steps. These guys have been around for a few years now, I believe. And I really didn't hear of them until I became friends with Monica Garcia on Facebook. So, after seeing my first show, I definitely say that I will be watching it again. And of course, this is also WrestleMania week. And we've got a big weekend coming up. Tomorrow night is NXT TakeOver. earlier today was the Evolve show where um, some of the NXT guys in NXT performed. The Street Profits, Kyle O'Reilly, and then we got a run in from 3 of the 4 members of the Undisputed Era to close out the show. So you never know what's going to happen at these small independent shows. But back to the LFC. I did notice there were some wardrobe malfunctions, especially with Bella. It wasn't hard to miss. And there was wardrobe malfunctions aplenty. But that's what you get for wrestling in lingerie. It's bound to happen, and people are going to think of this as some sideshow or whatever. You know what? If you don't know if you haven't seen it, you don't know what you're talking about, because these ladies are legitimate athletes. Okay, they really opened my eyes, and like I said, I'm a fan of this, and I've been posting it on Twitter all day today, and I was just going nuts about this, and I couldn't wait for it. But with that in mind, I'm only 11 minutes in, and I'm running out of ideas to talk about. I think the fight of the night for me was the main event between Allie and Monica. I mean, they both showed a lot of heart, a lot of technique, and, it was just a great fight all around. My favorite fighters tonight were Tomiko, because she showed great heart, great grit, and she can hang with some of these ladies. Bella, of course, that first round, I had no idea what to expect, and she, made a believer. People I'm not a fan of, I wasn't a fan of that coach. The 2 commentators kind of got a little, redundant, for lack of better terms, but they're there for their job, and they're there to sell the product, basically. But it was just borderline redundancy sometimes with these guys, but they did a good job. My hat's off to them. I was not a big fan of Jolene Hex. I never have been, and I probably never will be. But that's just me on a personal level. And it's not because of, her ability. It's because of her attitude. And, attitude goes far for me. On a letter grading scale, A being the best, F being the worst, I'd rate this a solid A-, to be real honest. There's a lot of work that can be done, and there's a lot of things that they don't need to change, and just look for bigger and better things coming from the LFC in the coming months, and I guarantee you they will be something really to watch over the next few months. But I'm going to cut this one off, guys. It's been a pleasure. This has been my recap and reaction to LFC 26. I'm your host, Mike. I will be back tomorrow with a recap of NXT TakeOver, and on Saturday is the Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, and then of course Sunday is WrestleMania. So I'm going to be doing podcasts all throughout WrestleMania weekend. So just keep your ears open, and you might hear something good from me. But until the next podcast. This has been Mike, and this has been the Washington